Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, welcome. So quickly, I just want to apologise for the fact that I've been away for so long. 2018 was not my year, and I guess I kind of just lost motivation, but I suppose you'll see a video about that already by now. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it in the description and put it in a card on the screen. I wanted to start 2019 off right, so here is my first video. And it's kind of like horror stories about being in a wheelchair and having to use accessible taxis. This is part one of this series. There's going to be another part which is to do with tubes and trains, because I've had a lot of experiences on both. But taxis is definitely the one that I could tell you like hundreds of stories about. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Firstly, I used to go to like a singing class in Birmingham. At the time I was living in Leicester, so I used to travel over every Sunday on the train to Birmingham. When I got to Birmingham, I'd then get a taxi from the train station to the Mac Art Centre, if any of you know it. And I used to go and do my singing lesson, which was like a group of us. And then we'd have to call a taxi after. Now, I don't know what it is about Birmingham taxi companies in general, but it was like the most stressful thing in the entire world every single week. There was usually one or two companies that we'd use. However, a lot of the time they'd say, oh, we don't have one for like another 45 minutes, which is kind of standard wheelchair taxis. But then a number of times they turned up and it didn't have a ramp. Yes, it was a black cab, but it didn't have a ramp. And I was like, I specifically asked for a ramp. I don't know how you expect me to like get into the taxi. Luckily, I never missed my train, thank God, because I had plenty of time. Like, if I didn't get a taxi at that point, whether I got it in an hour, it didn't really matter, because I still had like a few more trains that I could catch. So luckily, it wasn't that much of a catastrophe. However, it was still really stressful. So the next one was actually in my hometown in Wales. Basically, me and one of my friends at the time, and my little sister, we went to Cardiff to meet Chloe from Dance Mums. And basically, we came out of the event in Cardiff, and what happened was my chair kind of clipped my friend's foot. And so when we got back to Newport, my mum picked up my sister and I had to take my friend to the hospital. Now, we were there probably until like 11 o'clock at night, I'd say. It was probably about a 4 or 5 hour wait we had to wait for her to be seen for her foot. And she ended up on crutches. And we rang pretty much the only taxi company at the time that was in Newport that had wheelchair taxis, and they were like, we don't have any tonight, there's none running. And I was like, what do I do? So we ended up walking a little bit trying to find a wheelchair taxi, because a lot of them in my hometown are kind of self-employed, but they go to a taxi company for work when they haven't got private work, if that makes sense. It's very complicated. We walked around a little bit and couldn't find anything. We walked to the train station, bearing in mind she had, I think it was a fractured foot at the time, and she was obviously on a crutch. So we had to walk about 15-20 minutes through the town centre to get to the train station. There was none sat at the train station. Yeah, we spent hours like trying to find a taxi, and at this point I didn't have like a wheelchair accessible car like I do now. So in the end, my mum had to come and pick me up with my granddad, and them two, the poor buggers, they had to literally lift my electric wheelchair. And any of you that are in an electric wheelchair will know how heavy these chairs are. So it wasn't an easy task, but at that point we had no other choice because we just wouldn't have got home. Okay, the next one I'm going to mention briefly, but I have done a whole video on this experience. So again, I'll leave that in the card right now, and I'll also try and remember to leave it in the description box. It's basically being stranded in London. So again, this friend and I, we used to love going to concerts and events and stuff like that. We went to Lauren Aquilina in London, which was actually at Hoxton Hall. Absolutely, the venue was like incredible, the people were amazing, and The artists we went to see they were so nice and lovely and supporting. But long story short, because I don't want to like dwell on this one because I've already done a video on it. Basically, we rang a taxi company who said they had wheelchair accessible taxis with ramps for me to get in. And we were waiting for like, I'd say it's about an hour and 25 minutes by the time they actually got there. And when the taxi arrived, it wasn't accessible. So we ended up stuck in London that night because we missed our train, and yeah, it was pretty stressful. But if you want to hear the full story, definitely go and check out the video. The next one is to do with university when I was in Leicester. So as part of one of our modules, we had a module that was like site-specific performance. So we'd create performances for a specific place in Leicester. So my groups we did at a local library, and we went to watch another group's that was at a boxing club that was quite far out of Leicester. If you know Leicester at all, it was sort of almost by Abbey Park, which from De Montfort University is like really far away. Like it takes about 45 minutes to walk easily. So we got there fine, we watched the performance. After the performance, we rang for a taxi. There was about 4 of us that were going to chip in to pay for the taxi. And we rang them and they said, it's going to be a 2-hour wait for a wheelchair one. I've never felt so sad in all my life because we're like in the middle of nowhere. It's a dark street on kind of, not a main road, but it was a busy-ish road. And we didn't know what to do. My chair was dying as well. Like, I'm not even kidding. It was on like full 3 red bars. You basically have 3 red, 4 orange and 3 green, and my chair had gone down all the way right down to the reds. So obviously we couldn't wait for 2 hours because even if I took my chair off, like my chair would have died, and it was freezing cold. Like, so in the end, bearing in mind I only had 3 bars on my chair, and we had a really long way to walk just to get to the town centre, especially on such a low battery. But we had no other choice, we just had to risk it. So we ended up walking to the town centre, which took about 25 minutes. I know a lot of you who live in Leicester may say it's not 25 minutes walk from Abbey Park to the town centre, but when you've got a chair that's really low and goes like probably about 2 miles an hour when it's on its lowest, it ends up being a lot longer. So we got to town, my chair was absolutely like, I think at this point it was on like 2 red bars and it was flashing, because once it gets to 2 it starts to flash. It's like the warning to tell you that it's like really running out of charge. Luckily we made it to town though. We got in a taxi in town. The poor taxi man had to like give my chair a bit of a push because my chair was running out of juice and it just wouldn't go up the ramp on its own. So the taxi driver had to do that. I got home back to my halls, and I actually went over the lip into sort of my block at my halls, and I got stuck because my chair was on 1 bar and it got stuck trying to get over the lip to get into like my corridor. So that was not fun. I ended up having to ring security to get them to push me a little bit just to get me over it. And it's not even like a step or anything, it's like a lip about that small. So yeah, it's not good. The next one is to do with kind of a concert, but kind of a theatre show as well. So my sister was in a performance with her theatre group. I can't remember what they were doing, but this was probably, it wasn't that long ago, I'd say it was about 8-9 months ago maybe. So we ended up, I had to take my sister on the train to Penarth, and we got on the train, we got there fine and everything like that. It was a bit busy because it actually was one of the nights that Ed Sheeran was playing in Cardiff, which was a little bit stressful because we were literally like shoulder to shoulder with other people and it was like horrendous. But anyway, we saw my sister's show and got the train back to my hometown. And when we got to my hometown, bearing in mind my hometown is really small, and I'd say there's not like, you don't get hundreds of taxis like somewhere like London or Birmingham. We got back to the taxi rank, and because again we didn't have the wheelchair vehicle that we do have now, my mum said that me and my sister would get a taxi and we'd meet her back at the house. It's a good job my mother stayed with us at the taxi rank, because there's probably around 15 taxis in the taxi rank, and because we got back to the area as well the same time that all the people from Ed Sheeran got back, it was a nightmare because all the taxis were taking everyone else that could just literally jump in the cab. So we ended up being stuck there for about 25 minutes trying to get a taxi. All these people were getting off the train and the next train and basically jumping in front of us. Like, there was like no queue system, I suppose. Everyone just kind of dived for the taxis and we ended up waiting for ages. Luckily, the guy that actually picked us up was a taxi driver that's seen this happen to me before, and my mother jumped in front of someone and was like, no, that's mine. So we ended up getting a taxi, but we didn't get home till very late because everyone else was basically taking all the taxis. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to those stories. This is something that kind of happens quite a lot when you're in a wheelchair. Unfortunately, taxi drivers, not all of them, but I'd say probably half of them, I suppose they just don't care for like everybody's needs, and you just get a lot of rude ones, which is really annoying considering not so much anymore, but I used to rely on taxis a hell of a lot because that was my only way, apart from a bus, apart from late at night, that I could get home from like concerts and things like that, or just get around in general. Yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed listening to these stories. If you're in a wheelchair, or I don't know, maybe if you have a guide dog or anything like that and you have similar experiences, because I don't feel like it's just those of us in a wheelchair that experience these kind of things with taxis. So let me know if you have any stories down below, because I'd love to know more about other people's experiences as well, and we'll have a little chat down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. There's a part 2 coming, that's to do with trains and tubes, so if you want to stick around for that, definitely do. And I have some really good videos planned, so I'm really excited. Make sure to hit the like button and also switch on the bell notifications, because unless you have that on, you won't get notified when I upload. So if you don't want to miss my videos, then you really should do that. And I will see you guys very soon in a new video. Bye guys!